Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I really enjoyed that conversation with Richard Cross, who hit the ground running on Monday in his new show, Mornings with Richard Cross. And as I mentioned, he's not going to try to fill Paul Gallo's shoes. He's going to, he's going to create his own program and make his own impact. But I think he's going to. We're in really, really good shoes. You can see he's a masterful communicator. And there's a lot to communicate in this state, and I think Richard's just going to do a terrific job. So now I want to shift gears a little bit. I had the opportunity, I mentioned to you, to moderate the Mayor's Forum in Ocean Springs a couple of weeks ago. I actually did the same forum 4 years ago. Two of the candidates participated, two did not. It was a little unfortunate. I felt like it was a bit of a slap in the face to the organizers and to the voters. A city like Ocean Springs that is so highly engaged in the democratic process. Democracy is alive and well in Ocean Springs. Any opportunity that candidates have to compare and contrast in an organized forum like what I had the opportunity to moderate, it's what the voters need. The voters deserve that opportunity. And unfortunately, only two of the four candidates participated. But last time, all the candidates participated, and one of them was Melanie Allen, who was running for mayor at the time. As it turns out, at the event, where I reached to my left to put my water down, I saw Melanie Allen sitting there and immediately said, I remember her. We need to reconnect, and we did. And I was really thrilled. She's a longtime volunteer, someone who I have a lot of respect for. I remember back when she ran for mayor how passionate she was about her city, and it touched me, and I didn't forget that. So I wanted to invite Melanie back to join me on this show and just talk about the city she loves. Without any further ado, Melanie Allen. How are you doing, Melanie?
I'm doing well, Ricky. Thanks for inviting me, and good to see you this morning.
Thanks for your patience as we work to get started this morning. Everything seemed to be running just a little bit late, but
I enjoyed Richard's conversation, and I think I agree with you. He's going to do a great job.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Hey, so Melanie, before we get into sort of the here and now, the work that you're doing these days, tell me about where you come from and how did you become so passionate about Ocean Springs?
Well, it's easy to become passionate about Ocean Springs, as you know, because this is a rare and beautiful community. I am from a family from New England. My grandparents raised me in South Florida, in Palm Beach, and I ended up in Mobile for years, built a business there. I was in the communications business. Was married at that time, and my husband taught at the University of South Alabama. My son Lee was born in Mobile. Lee lives in Tangier, Morocco, and has been there for many years. He was a Peace Corps volunteer and eventually ended up in Morocco and has been teaching there for 12 years. But I came over here. I had my business in Mobile. I had a client in Biloxi. Came over here. Everyone said to me, you need to take a look at Ocean Springs. It's a beautiful community. And I'm embarrassed to admit I drove up and down Highway 90 looking for something special and didn't find it. And my friend said, Melanie, you got to go over the railroad track. And that first visit, the railroad, going over the railroad track on Washington, driving amongst that canopy of trees, and it was love. And as soon as I could, I bought property over here. I've been here since 97, I believe.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, on your son, incidentally, I have a friend of mine who I worked with. He was actually the VP of an innovation at NOLA Media Group when I was CEO there. And he has since moved to France. He's a very global thinker, as is his wife. But his son was in the Peace Corps. And he went to Cambodia, and he still lives in Cambodia. He never left Cambodia.
Lee was assigned to the Republic of Georgia. And Ricky, for a young man who was born in Mobile, the winters in the Republic of Georgia and Eastern Europe are harsh. And I thought Lee would be home in 6 months as soon as it got cold. And he hasn't full-time been home since. He loved it. He had a friend who became headmaster of the American school in Tangier, and said, come try it. And this is his 13th year teaching English and other subjects in that high school. He said he's proud to represent the United States abroad.
That's awesome. My son,
Yeah.
Justin, who did a lot of mission work when he was younger, to Amazon and, to South America and Europe, and spent some time in Spain. He was our world traveler. We thought he would be the one that would end up like your son. Lord knows where he was going to end up. And we were very proud of him. He lives in New York City. The good news is he lives in New York City now. He didn't end up in some country somewhere else, but he's on the international consulting team for Price Waterhouse and doing extremely well. Yeah.
Excellent.
So you moved there, and like a lot of people, I remember we used to do readership studies at the Sun Herald every other year, sometimes every 3 years. But what we found, and this was back to the early 80s, Melanie, we were doing these readerships. The readership of the Sun Herald in the Ocean Springs area was always higher than any other community in coastal Mississippi.
Wonderful.
The level of engagement was always higher. You think about today how engaged people are in the process, but they've always been engaged in that way. Now, look, the faces may change along the way, but the reality is people care deeply about the community. Sometimes that can be messy, but I could have said exactly the same thing in the early 80s. I could have said exactly the same thing. You could have said the same thing in the upper 1990s when you first got there, and in 2000. Absolutely. There's always been, I think, the open discussions around potential futures for the city and how there could be disagreement around that is how you get a better city, isn't it?
Absolutely right. And Richard said something earlier that really struck me. He said all politics is local, and that's absolutely true. The trends we see nationally, internationally, they're mirrored here at home. So we have some of the great things going on, and we're a very proud community, a lot of growth. Economically, Ocean Springs has probably never been better. The level of growth has been concerning for many, but as you well know, and you talk about this all the time, there's a compromise that you have to make when you live in a community. And being polite to each other and engaging in positive conversation when you're in conflict, especially with social media these days, it's something we're still on the learning curve, I think, with that. But I love this community. There's something intangible, Ricky, about Ocean Springs. The Native Americans knew it years ago. It may be the healing waters. It may be just the sense of this place. But I've visited and lived in beautiful places. I feel so at home here in Ocean Springs. Part of it's the beauty, part of it's the engagement, as you mentioned. And we're encouraged to be engaged here. The city leaders, every mayor who I've known since I moved here, Sharon Ainsworth, Connie Moran, Shay Dobson, and now Kenny Holloway. I may have run against Kenny, but I have a great working relationship with him. That's what we do here. And it's just a great community.
It's interesting. I have spent, most of my adult life learning as much as I can about Ocean Springs. And when I have, anyone from Ocean Springs on, and I feel this way about a lot of the other communities too, I might add, because there's a unique sense of place that exists in each of the communities of coastal Mississippi, and that's why it's so special. The conversations I might have in Waveland are going to differ from the conversations I have in Ocean Springs, but the love for their community is the same. And one of the things we learned after Hurricane Katrina is that buildings don't make a community; the people make the community. And when you understand that and you appreciate and respect the diverse sense of places that exist here in coastal Mississippi, when you get that, is to really appreciate this thing we call coastal Mississippi and what makes it so special. But it's true, isn't it?
It's absolutely true. And as painful as it is to think about Hurricane Katrina, because it was devastating. I have a mortgage now. I wouldn't have had a mortgage. I didn't have flood insurance. I got 4 feet of water in my house. But Hurricane Katrina moved me and changed me in what I hope is a positive way. I understood much more what community meant after that storm. I lived on Ward Avenue. The finest area of Ocean Springs, the greatest people. And it's like you said, it's the people who carry a sense of place, a sense of pride. Folks who lived here forever are so proud of their family heritage. People moving here don't want it to change too much, but growth is inevitable. We're not a stagnant economy in Ocean Springs. We're a business, and we have to operate like a business. But Katrina taught me that community is more than just writing a check to a nonprofit a couple of times a year. And that part was extremely important for me. Humbling, but I learned a lot of lessons from that storm.
I think we all did. That is for sure. Listen, when we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Melanie. I'm regretting that I didn't put a whole hour in for this conversation. We'll have to come back in the future and continue our conversation with her. But when we come back, we'll do a final segment with Melanie. We'll see you after this.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. We're visiting with my friend Melanie Allen, who I had the opportunity to meet 4 years ago when she ran for mayor of Ocean Springs. She's a consummate volunteer. And we were just talking about, what makes not just Ocean Springs special, but what makes coastal Mississippi so special. And just one quick point, Melanie, as it relates to the people and what we learned from Hurricane Katrina. I can't agree more. I learned the same thing as the publisher of the Sun-Herald. What I saw in my fellow coastal Mississippians, it will forever embolden me to want to make a difference, because people came out of the woodwork. People who had tremendous needs redirected the help to other people who they perceived had greater needs. It was an amazing thing to learn. I learned also, and I've written a series of lessons about it, but one thing is, we thought we worked hard. We thought we focused hard before Katrina, but Katrina redefined so much of what we're humanly capable of doing. And I think we just have to remind ourselves of that from time to time, because we get stuck in the day-to-day stuff that we do, and we think we're maxing out, and we're not even beginning to give back in the way we learned we can after Hurricane Katrina. But that's so true, isn't it?
It's absolutely true. And first of all, I don't want to forget to say what the Sun-Herald did for the whole coast, for the state, for the region in the recovery from Katrina was unbelievable. And your Pulitzer Prize honor was absolutely appropriate. And we will always owe you a debt of gratitude. Like many other people, my block, we ate together. We ate things out of everybody's freezers as long as we could. When the wine held out, that was great as well. But we would gather around at night and look at a little battery-powered TV and watch Nightline. And we would see one story after another about New Orleans, and God bless New Orleans. But we were without, and we were in need. The people who came from all across America and sat down and held my hand and prayed with me, extraordinarily valuable. And I was damaged enough. I could be involved with the Red Cross. I could be involved with great organizations. I didn't want to deal with my own house. And I had to grow out of that. But I'm so grateful for the people who lifted us up after that awful experience.
Well, we learned a lot about Mississippi's invisible coast, that editorial that we wrote in the Sun.
The landmass between Louisiana and Alabama, remember?
Yeah, it was amazing. But again, I think it really, in some regards, it was a gift, because it taught us to be self-sufficient. It taught us to appreciate the help we were getting from volunteer organizations from across the country, as you pointed out, and we learned a lot about ourselves in that regard.
We
think, if anything, the democracy that plays out in each of the communities today might be a bit more engaged than the average community, because we've been there and we've had to think about these things. And
I think that's very fair to say. And I think Haley Barbour was extraordinary in his leadership.
Yeah.
I might disagree with him on a couple of other things occasionally, but I will love and respect that man so much. And here on the coast, his team organized the charrettes, where we had the opportunity to hear experts from Connecticut about traffic patterns, the architects who talked to us about density and resilient building. I ended up getting involved in the charrettes. One, I had a good friend, still have a good friend, Mary Sewell, is an architect, and she took me with her one day over to one of the casinos where the process was going on, and she said, "Just come. We need people to help color lines on maps." From that, I was invigorated. I was hungry for the knowledge to help make my community better. And Mayor Moran invited people to be part of that process. Again, changed me forever, got me involved in public art, let me meet a lot of other people I didn't know. I got involved with a lot of other organizations. That experience, like you said, as painful as it was for us, made us better.
Hey, listen, I was at the charrettes from
Yes, you were.
early morning to 2 and 3 a.m. some mornings, but soaking it up because, it changed me as a publisher. It helped me understand, like you, what it takes and how, one of the things that Andreas Dwani said, if you have a column left in a home, rebuild the home, because he was so concerned about us losing the architectural characteristics that made this place so unique. And I came to understand that. I came to appreciate what sense of place really means. So when I talk about sense of place, it was informed through the charrettes and the 100 architects and planners that were part of that process. It was magical, wasn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely was. It was like a master's degree in community service, and you could learn from the best who gave of themselves to come in and participate, and again make us better. So we are still having the advantages of that architecture, natural capital. We learned a lot from that, and Ocean Springs is the place to be, and I will believe it for the rest of my life.
Well, Melanie, we've only just begun to have the conversation. We'll have you back in a couple of weeks and continue the conversation. There's a lot to learn from you, and there's a lot to talk about just in general because we've experienced a lot together. Melanie Allen, it's been a pleasure, my friend.
And pleasure always, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much. It's been a fun day. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.